There are literally dozens of different kinds of fishing knots that a person could learn to tie. And I think that makes it a little complicated. And honestly, there are not many knots that I use when I'm fishing. One that I use the most is called the universal knot, or uni knot for short. So let me show you that knot, and that'll cover most of the fishing situations that you might encounter. Now you can use a uni knot, for example, to tie a hook onto the end of your line. And to do that, you have your line, which this would be your main line coming from your fishing rod. You run that main line through the eye of your hook, and now you're going to work with this short piece, which is called the tag end. And you manipulate the tag end to tie your knot. So you go through the eye of the hook, bring your tag back up along your main line, and make it long enough that you have enough to work with. And then I grab the hook here with one hand and grab the two lines up here in front of the hook with my other hand. And now I bring that tag end back to the eye of the hook. And then I grab it there with my hand again. And now you can see I've got this double line here up on top in this loop. And now I'm going to take the tag end and I'm going to wrap around the double lines inside the loop. And I'm going to wrap back forward around those double lines. And with the uni knot, you want to make about 5 wraps. With this heavy cord that I use for demonstration, we'll see if I get 5 wraps out of it, but you'll get the idea. Go around the double line, inside the loop. There's about 4 wraps there. And then pull your tag. You can let go with this hand, grab the tag, and pull it until it's snug. And then something important that you want to do anytime you're tying a fishing knot is you want to reduce the friction in that knot. When you cinch it down, you don't want any friction because that friction or heat will weaken the line and weaken the knot. So I always, when I get it snugged up, stick that knot in my mouth and get some spit on it, or you drop it in the water or something, get something on it to lubricate it a little bit. And then holding the hook, I pull on the main line and that knot will cinch down to the eye of the hook. If you've tied it right, it'll slide like that. And when you get done, you have the loops made nice and neatly. It looks a little bit like a noose knot, if you would. But that's the uni knot or universal knot, and how you would tie something onto the end of your line using that universal knot. Of course, then you trim that tag off with a pair of clippers and you're ready to go. Now I mentioned this is called the universal or uni knot because once you learn that one basic knot, you can use that for a variety of situations. For example, I showed you how to tie a hook on the end of the line. I use that universal knot in the end of my line when I'm tying it to the spool on my reel, when I'm putting new line on the reel. You can also use the same uni knot to splice 2 lines together or tie a leader onto the end of your line. To do that, let me show you how that's done to give you an idea what I'm talking about. So let's say we have the main line again for coming from our fishing pole, and we want to tie on a piece of leader to the end of that line. So I'm going to splice these 2 lines together. And I do that by overlapping the 2 lines. I'm holding them in both hands again, and then I'm going to let go of one side and go over here and tie that universal knot on one side. So here I've got my 2 lines again. I come back, there's my loop, there's my 2 lines on top. Now I'm going to make my wraps inside the loop, go around the double lines, make 4 or 5 wraps. And then when I get my wraps done, pull the tag and just cinch that up. And now I'm going to go back here to the other side and I'm going to tie another uni knot the same way on the opposite side. So here's the loop again. I come back to this hand. There's my loop. Now I make my wraps around the double line. Pull my tag to cinch it up. Then remember to lubricate those knots with a little bit of spit again. And then I pull the 2 main lines, and those back-to-back uni knots will cinch down against each other And there I've spliced those two lines together, or I've tied a leader onto my main line. Of course, once you've cinched those knots together back to back, then you trim the tag ends again and you're ready to go. That's just an example of that uni knot. Once you learn to tie that basic knot, you can use it for a variety of fishing situations, like tying hooks on the end of your line, splicing leaders into your line, and a variety of other things that you may need to do when you're out on the water.